Press.
Thank you having me and waiting me
Yeah,
for the
no worries.
session.
I was just trying to kill some time to like others to join, but all right. So we are going to start with the triggers today. We need to because we didn't do anything about the developer portion of it. So since we already started to take some like trigger classes, if I just ask, because doing like some practice and theoretical stuff, it's totally different. Like, since you guys are executing lots of triggers right now, and if I just ask, like, what is the trigger? What you can say?
It's like an action that we create, which affects the other action to make it start.
Kind of, yes. First of all, can we say trigger it is itself? It is an Apex code, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So we can say trigger is an Apex code that execute under what condition it executes, like before or after some events, right?
Correct.
So what are the events? For example, what are we writing inside that parenthesis? Like we are writing down before insert, if after insert.
Updating action.
Yeah.
So
Create.
basically we're talking about the DML operations.
Yes. So while we are talking about anything related to the Salesforce, we should use the terminology. So what are they inside that parenthesis? They are all events. And these events, there are two options, like it should be before event or after event, right?
Correct.
And these events, which we already known, we learned them on the Apex and Java also. These are the DML operations. So can we say that trigger is an Apex code that execute before or after the DML operators?
And what was the DML? Data manipulation language. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
Good.
So in this case, if I ask you guys, like, what is the syntax for the trigger? I know while you are writing a trigger, you are just creating a trigger and it automatically put the syntax over there. But do you guys know how to write it down? If I ask one of you guys,
So
in front of you, can you be able to write down the syntax of the trigger?
probably I can try, you know.
Yeah, just try that. Can you share the screen?
Sure. So let's share this one. So this is the code page. So let's open new Apex trigger. And
No, if you write it down like that, then it's gonna like create the syntax by itself. I want to see a blank page, maybe Word or Excel or Notepad++, something like that. And I would like to see how you are gonna write it down, the syntax of the trigger.
So anyway, it's already there. Just like the
You can cover it up.
okay. So technically, so we're talking about just heads up through the the trigger name. I'm talking about the first line about the page.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
the first page, we saying trigger something, the name about the page name, and then we trying to create conditions before, after, insert, update, delete something. So are we talking about this part, or are we talking about the condition part? The if, trigger.
No. I'm not talking about the condition portion. When you open up any trigger,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to write me down the first line of it by yourself without looking at it.
Gotcha. So it's starting with the trigger. Exactly the main logic goes like the trigger. Then we giving a name for the let's say page name. The place of the
Just make it realistic. So if you are writing down any account trigger, you can give a name as an account trigger, right?
sure.
Yeah.
This is the, let me fix it, trigger. So basically this is the name of the trigger, account trigger. We dedicate the name on the page to the trigger. Then we are placing the object.
Okay.
For example, what object are we working on it? So that's going to be an account, and it's going to be an account. So this should be the first name. By the way, this needs to be trigger. Probably the first sentence of the trigger page gonna look like that. Then between parentheses, we add in the conditions. Like,
This is not the condition.
pardon me?
This is not the condition.
The parameter, maybe?
Yeah. What did you?
Sorry, my bad.
Events.
So before, let's say first before, gonna be insert.
Sorry, what did we call this part again? Parameter or
Events.
Events.
Trigger events.
something? Events. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Normally it is parameter while we are writing down any code, but in here it is turning to the trigger events.
I'm not sure, am I right over here? And the curly braces for the condition. After the curly braces, we start implementing the condition line.
We are inside the curly parentheses. We are implementing our logic here. So whatever we are writing down, it is gonna be the logic here. So if we are working on the, say, like after update, can you continue to write it down and give me?
After update, right?
Yes.
So it should be like that. And there should be after insert as well, if something happens, because that will be the insert, after insert, update, after update. So insert and update part is okay here. So over here, we're going to start with the condition, the logic condition. And that's for the operation. Then we are putting the name of the event. This is gonna be the event name.
Okay.
And then After the event name, we are starting to implementing the position before or update. So should be another if condition. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
Yeah.
That is before. It came automatically. Probably it's reminded. And then after this condition, I think I have to implement after condition.
Yeah, since we are still underneath the insert DML operation,
Correct.
we just write down a condition for before event. Right now we are writing down for the after event. Event is insert here, so which is going to be after insert.
So
We
through
write
this,
down everything here.
yeah, through this sentence between 2118 to 2124,
Mhm.
between this condition belongs to this if, and whatever we implement here, it's going to belong to insert operation.
That's correct.
And then if you would like to implement a trigger from another page, we are placing the name of the page, putting that and the method name and the trigger condition. That's what I remember.
Okay. If the method is static, you are right.
Okay.
Because that's why, like, each and every time Sanjay wants you guys to use the static method. In that way, it is gonna be easy. While you are calling that method, you are just putting the class name, dot method name. Then you are just adding the trigger events here.
Okay. So and the quickest way to implement the is update part. Just copy this part,
And paste it.
paste it right below the 2124, and then just update this part to the is update, and you're gonna get the usable another if condition for the update part.
Okay. So I just wanted to see, like, since we are writing down the triggers, we are just putting the name and automatically it create the first line. I want to make sure every one of us like know how to write it down manually also, because sometimes what's happening, they are asking you to like share the screen, and after you share the screen, instead of opening the developer console, they say, can you like just open a Notepad++ or any like sometimes maybe Word document, and just can you write me down this trigger? In that case, you are gonna need it to show them, like if you just write down something wrong in the first line, maybe they are gonna say, okay, it's fine. They are just gonna like cut it over there. So make sure, since some stuff is automatically happening inside the developer console, but make sure you are gonna be able to write it down.
Gotcha.
That's my concern. And in here, we are just talking about the line 2117. It is starting with the trigger, because this is the trigger's syntax. After then, we need to insert the name of the trigger. This is the part, whatever we put, while we are just saying new trigger, then it is asking us the trigger name, right? After then, there is a keyword over there, on. Don't forget that on. Most of the time we are forgetting that when we are typing manually. So this is something fixed. So it's gonna be all the time, it's gonna be like this. You are writing the trigger on what? Then after the on, you need to put an object name over there. That is why these two you are just writing down or picking while you are creating the trigger. Can you open any trigger over the developer console? Just say file and new trigger. So this is the part you are just typing over here as a, for example, account trigger, and you are picking the S object, which is, if it is an account trigger, it is going to be the related to the account object. So you are just putting these two, it is implementing whatever you type over there inside the syntax. But you should be able to write down this one from the memory. That's my concern.
Okay.
And after the object name, we need to open a parenthesis. Inside the parenthesis, whatever we are writing down over there, they are the trigger events. Inside the parenthesis. These are trigger events. So, I want every one of you guys to try this one by yourself without looking any code. Just try to implement it. Because until now, we did like 35 or 36 different triggers. You should be able to write it down by yourself. Is there anyone who has any concern about this?
So we are creating a new like trigger class. Should we pick like a different object for it, just for the practice? Like if we do it for account, we already have one.
Yeah, you can create something else, but I don't want you to create over the developer console. I want you guys to create this one over the like Word page or
Oh, okay.
Notepad++, something like that.
Okay.
Because I want to see like how you guys are implementing manually. So thank you, Tunç.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I can share my screen and we can continue. So we talk about this. Okay. If someone asks you what type of Apex triggers you know, you can just count like before trigger and after trigger. So what is the difference between before trigger and after trigger? This before trigger, it is used to update or validate any values of a record before they are saved to the database. The magic word is database here. So before trigger, it executes before the record is saved to the database. And after trigger is, it is used to access a field values for any record that are stored in database. If they are stored in database, which means they are already saved to the database. And then you can use these values to make any change in the other records. if you just think about like this, Sanjay give us some user cases, right? According to user cases, we are just trying to understand what we need to use. So in here, as a syntax, we just put it over here, and then we put our code. While we are writing, we are just trying to implement here like trigger that is insert if trigger that is before or is after. So while we are determining which events we are going to use, the first thing we need to determine like if it is before trigger or after trigger. How can we identify that? The only thing we are just going to think about it, what they are asking from the user stories, and according to user story, should we take that value of that record after it is saved to the database, or we need to make any update before that value is saved to the database? This is the main logic. While implementing here, before we write down anything, we should understand if it is going to be a before or after trigger. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So if we come here, for example, this one, yesterday we did this, right? It says write a trigger on contact to prevent duplicate record creation based on contact email. What should we do here? Which one we should pick? Like, at least tell me like before or after.
I think it was before.
I agree, before.
Yeah. For creation, I think we should use before trigger.
Before.
Why?
Because we should prevent the records before it's saved to
Yes.
database.
Yeah.
That's correct, right? Because whatever we are trying to do here is we are trying to prevent the duplicate records creation, which means it should not be created if it is duplicate. In this case, it should be before saved to the database. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If we check something else, right here, create a related contact when an account is created. Is it before or after trigger?
It's again before, I think,
I think it's after.
creation.
Any idea? Tunç, Aslı?
Before and after together. Maybe.
I think it's after.
Okay, everybody is doing their own search, right? So if you just think about like what he is trying to say, he is asking us to do this, create a related contact when an account is created. So my contact creation, it depends on the account creation. So account creation should be happened
After.
after then I can create my contact. Because if we come back here, what it says here for the after trigger, after triggers are used to access a field values of the records. We are trying to access a value of the record, which is stored in the database, and we can use these values to make change in the other records.
Yeah, we were getting the ID of the account that we created
Yes.
to create the related contacts.
Yes,
That's why it's after.
that's why I'm just trying to come there. Like, what we are trying to do here, we are just trying to access some values of the record, which is supposed to be stored in the database, which is account ID. And we can use this account ID to make changes to the other records, which is the like contact creation. We are going to use that account ID field. It's supposed to be the same with the account ID. Does it make sense, or should I show over the like fields and?
I think I'm okay.
Okay.
Me too. I'm okay.
Me
Okay.
too.
So the thing is here, I'm just trying to explain because I know Sanjay, he just mentioned it, but he is, everyone has their own style, you know, and he is the one, he believes that if we do more practice, it's gonna be understandable more. That's correct. But like he doesn't like to explain over the like book sentences, but I like to dig into it, and like I need to understand like what's happening here. Or if somebody asks me what is the difference between before and after trigger, I should be able to explain them. Because if somebody asks to Sanjay, he can easily explain it because he knows that logic and he's writing down a bunch of triggers. But for us in the beginning, we need to know some stuff like how to explain it. The magic words are like saving to the database. If it is before, it is before trigger. You don't need to say every single words here, but you should at least say that like we are using the before trigger for the records which are not saved to the database yet, or before we save them to the database. We are just trying to do some updates. We are just trying to apply some validation rules. So actually, it's not validation rules. It is something different in Salesforce, but we are trying to validate some values. For the after trigger, we are trying to access some values of the records, which is already stored in the database. We can use these values to make any other changes for the other records. And in here, there's another explanation. It says the records that fire the after trigger are read-only. Always think about the ID. In this one, we talk about this example, right? So we need to know about the account ID. Is the account ID something we can edit? No. While we are creating the account record, it is assigned automatically from Salesforce. It is read-only. This is just for the after trigger. Any question here before or after trigger?
No, I guess.
No.
I want you guys to think about this one first while you are starting to write down the triggers. Is it about before trigger or after trigger? After you describe this, after you determine like you should use the before trigger, then you should consider about before insert or whatever is the DML operation, before insert or after insert, or before insert or before update or before delete then you can think about just befores. So we already talked about this. Anyway, I'm gonna share these with you, so you don't need to make a note, but if you want, you can just take a note. But you should know this portion, and manually you should be able to write it down. Okay, so if you are okay with the before trigger and after trigger, then you should know the different events, right? So there are 3 events which is related to the before, because we have 4 DML operations. One of them is insert, the other one is update, delete, and undelete. 4 DML operations. But for the undelete DML operation, we don't have any before trigger. Keep in mind, only before undelete we don't have. That's why, like, instead of 8, we have 7 events. Normally, if it is an insert, we have before insert and after insert. If it is update, before update, after update. If it is delete, before delete, after delete. If it is undelete, we have only after undelete. We don't have the before undelete. This is the one you should keep in mind all the time. Any question?
No.
Some of the stuff, like, it looks like you should memorize it. Yeah, if you need it, memorize it. Because when they ask you, you should be able to answer these kind of questions. And when they ask you, they are gonna ask you these deep stuff. Okay, what should be the consideration while we are implementing any trigger? For example, if we use any upsert, upsert means, as you know, it is update and insert together. But we can use the upsert for, like, before the insert and before the update, or after the insert, after the update. So anyway, you are using insert and update DML operations, but you can use this one just for the before and after, because you don't have any other choice. If the field history is updated after the trigger has successfully finished the processing the data, any callout should be asynchronous. Sometimes I'm getting hard time to pronounce this one. Asynchronous means, like, there is no synchronization. Trigger doesn't want to or doesn't have to wait for the response. What does it mean? Normally, when you run a code on the backend, something is happening and you are sending a request, getting a response, then it works. If there are lots of requests on this side, let me draw it. We said there are some requests. Oh. You are sending some requests, and then you are getting a response. So while you are doing this, at the same time, maybe you are on the background, it is sending different codes. They are sending lots of requests here. So if it is synchronized, each and every request, it is getting some response. If it is a synchronized Apex, then it is going to be in a queue. And if this request is first, this is the response for it. It is gonna be like the first. I think I should choose the different color, but okay. This, and this is, if it is second request, this is gonna turn second. And if it is the third request, this is gonna be the third response. Say the third one is trigger. Instead of waiting this response queue, it is just getting the response. It doesn't have to wait for the response. It automatically runs. So the magic word here, it is asynchronous. So what you should be consider about writing down the triggers, they are going to work asynchronous, and trigger cannot have a static keyword in this code. Inside the trigger, you are not gonna see that, but you are gonna see the static keyword on the account trigger handler class. Inside the class, you have a keyword as a static, but inside the trigger, you don't have anything like that. If we come back to the syntax, where is my syntax? So I have, let me erase this. I have trigger name, on object name, trigger events. That's it. I don't have anything as a static. This part makes sense? Did you guys understand the asynchronous? Because anyway, you are going to learn about this asynchronous, because trigger is not the only one. There are some classes, they are working asynchronous, so they are not waiting for the responses. The third one, it says if a trigger completes successfully and the changes are committed to the database, and if it fails, the transaction is rolled back. So if you get any error, which means like, this is, how can I explain it? For example, yesterday we used the database class, right?
Yes.
If this is possible, you can get a question like that, because sometimes they are asking, what is the difference between like DML operations and database class? What you can say?
If you would like to partially implement a data, we could use the database class.
If you would like to implement partial code, then you should use the database class.
Correct.
So the biggest difference is this, nothing else. If when you say this, then the next question will be like, how do you implement the database class? Yesterday, what did we say? Database dot save result inside the
Condition, if condition.
no, it's like an array. You are just opening brackets and closing brackets. After then, you are just giving a name, say SRL or something like that. Then you are writing down your new, and you are giving something, and at the end you are saying false. When I explain it like this, I know it is hard to remember it. That's why I'm just trying to figure that out. I think Ebru was writing down that code, right?
Yes,
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 every yes, yeah.
yes, I'm actually trying to find it in my
It
notes.
was on contacts, I guess.
And it was number 30, 33 maybe?
So it was on the contact trigger handler.
Yes.
It is on Slack
Yes,
as well.
30,
35.
35, I guess. Write a trigger on contact to prevent duplicate records creation based on contact email.
This one right here. And I'm just looking for that. I think we used that on the.
I cannot see that in my notes
It
or in
was
my code.
Anonymous window, yeah.
Mm.
But not this one, I believe. Okay, let me do this.
Oh, okay, I got it. I can share my screen.
You can also check Slack, I think.
So, and I posted
have-
on Slack like anonymous window as well yesterday for number 35.
But I'm just gonna search.
I just copied it to the chat.
Right here.
Yeah.
So this portion here, what I was trying to explain, this portion is important because this one's supposed to be false. If it is not false, if it is true, then there is no difference between the DML operations and the database class. If you remember, Sanjay was explaining this one over the Trailhead, and there are a bunch of notes over there. So basically, you are just typing this database.save result with the parentheses, brackets, and then giving a name equal to database dot whatever is the operation you are just putting here. Inside the parentheses, you are just making a list just because of this. And this one should be false. If it is false, then you are gonna be able to apply for the partial operation. If it is true, it is same thing with the like normal insert. There is no difference. Okay, so we just come back to this portion from here. So we should remember the asynchronize for the triggers, which means it is not gonna wait for the response when you type it and run it, execute it. And trigger cannot have a static keyword in the code. When I say this, I don't mean the class. I'm just talking about the trigger. Inside the contact trigger handler class, which is class, that's why you have some static keyword here. But the difference between this one and this one, I think I already mentioned this before. If you just check the extensions, APX, which is Apex, C class, APX, which is apex, T for the trigger. This is trigger, this is class. Inside the trigger, we don't have anything static keyword.
So is this static keyword, is it the method? You're not mentioning about class, you said.
No, it is like inside the method here, but in here, it is trying to explain that you cannot have a static keyword in this code, in the like trigger code itself. But inside the class, you can have static keyword, but static is not the method name. If you guys remember the beginning of the Java lessons or beginning of the Apex lessons, we were using this because while we are calling this method, it is changing like what we are typing on the anonymous window, or if we are just calling this method over the trigger, that's why we are typing as a class name dot method name, just because of this static. If this one is not static, then we cannot call it like this. This is the beginning lessons, if you guys remember. Does it make sense?
Meredith, can you try to create static Boolean variable inside the trigger?
Where do you want me to type that?
Line 2.
Okay. So you mean static?
Static Boolean x equal false.
Equal false.
Okay, save it.
You are just checking if it is gonna accept it or not.
Yes.
It accepted right now.
Yeah, it didn't.
But this is a trigger.
Yes, trigger, but just
And it didn't give me.
inside the trigger.
I don't think it is mentioning right here. Like it's not talking about the syntax.
Oh,
I thought it's talking about sometimes you cannot name like the word, like I don't know, like new, for example, static Boolean instead of X, for example, I want to put new, the word new,
Yeah, it's
because it doesn't accept that those kind of stuff.
some of the keywords it doesn't accept. Yes.
Yeah, I thought something like that, but is it something different?
Yeah, it didn't accept the new right here. Unexpected token static. Unexpected token new. Right now it is giving error for the static.
Can you make it X again?
When it is X, it's supposed to keep this one. Now it accepted. But when I put new, it is giving an error for the static also. I don't know.
because it tries to see where was the problem, so it's giving static error, but it's nothing about static.
Okay, I can just check with Sanjay this. If it is not true, we can just remove this.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I understand, trigger cannot have a static keyword in its code.
Which is
So that
syntax?
means if we type code inside this trigger, normally we are using handler class. So if we are trying to use any static keyword, so it's not gonna work as a static.
But this is the keyword, right? Right now we are using.
Yeah, you use it. What about inside the if? Can you try to create inside the table? Inside any,
You mean another if condition here?
yeah. No, don't put the if condition. Just create static variable, any static variable.
Now it is saying,
No, you
Oh.
cannot put. Can you delete that if part?
It says you can declare and use static variables in a trigger, but you cannot use static initializer blocks.
Oh, okay. We
Is it
cannot
from the-
use static blocks. Okay, now I
Okay.
understand. Okay.
what
Yeah,
does
yeah.
this-
Yeah, that means normally inside the Java, we have static blocks. Even you use static blocks inside Java. First of all, static blocks run before the main method, even before main method. When let's say that you are using static method, right? Can you delete that part? Maybe I will show you what is the static keyword, static blocks. Okay, static block is normally we are typing some methods, right? Public, static, void, or even it's not static, some things, X, Y, Z, something like that. This is method, and this is static. This is static block. We have this one in Java, and even you use static blocks in Java, it's gonna run first. Always first static keywords run. So
but, it means, because I never use any static block thing. and
yeah, generally we don't use static blocks,
If
but
you're using the static block, is it supposed to be inside the any method which is static?
now where are we? We are in, we are in if parentheses, so let me go outside if. I cannot use control V. Okay. This is our if. I cannot see the. Okay. Yeah, you see. Oops. Can you open that one? I don't
Just give me a control.
know.
Just leave the mouse.
Okay. You see, method didn't give us error, but static block give us error.
Yeah, unexpected token static,
Mhm.
line 25, it says.
Yeah.
So let me correct that one then. Instead of saying we cannot use the static keyword, I'm gonna make it static block.
Oh, we didn't see anything like this with Sanjay, right?
We never applied the static block, and
Yeah.
first time I saw this.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we don't need to memorize this.
It looks like another thing to memorize, yes.
Actually, this is if somebody asks you this question, they are looking for senior developer. Don't worry about it.
It's block, BLOCK.
Okay. And let me copy this thing because I don't know how to write it. And like this. Mhm. All right. Okay. So we just talk about asynchronizing and static block instead of keyword. Okay, this is the one I showed you guys before. If you get any question about like what are the context variables, you should remember this graphic. And here, you already know what are the DML statements are or DML operations are. It's only 4. And which one doesn't have like before or after trigger?
Undelete doesn't have before.
Doesn't have before, okay. And when we check the execution, we are gonna see is before or is after. So while we are writing down our triggers, we need to identify this one first, then which DML operation we need to use. We can just write it down. And also for the data, we have some stuff like if it is new, trigger.new, trigger.old, trigger.old map, trigger.new map. So now we are gonna see what are these are. Okay, so you guys already know before and after. You already know what is insert, update, delete, and undelete operations, but you are not familiar with these are. So I just tried to fit everything on the same page. That's why I'm just making a little bit bigger. So insert, it returns true if the trigger was fired due to an insert operation. So if it is update operation, it's gonna be is update. So I'm just skipping these are. And I'm skipping the undelete also.
There is some wrong information here.
Which
If you
one?
remember, which one we don't have in undelete? Who is gonna say?
Before.
Yeah, before undelete, we don't have before undelete because you cannot make any update or something as before undelete. So before undelete is not available, just
Yeah.
after undelete.
Yeah, what is wrong here? In this page, it
In
doesn't.
the new, there's this page, new
Right.
section before undelete
Okay,
triggers.
yeah, I got that one. Okay. So in here, we need to see the, what do we call them? For the data. New, what we are using, if you remember in the beginning of the trigger class, Sanjay was explaining this one also. Trigger.new is a list of new version of the S object records. So basically it is a list. Trigger.new is a list of that records. But this is for the new records, I can say. Whatever is going to be created, that's gonna be the new record. And trigger.new is list of that new records. I'm just going to delete this one, but we can use the new trigger.new in the insert and update.
So it's not gonna be the new versions, right? Just new object records. Version, when we say version, it's like update, I guess. But it's still, we have before update.
Yeah, you can just think about the new records. Just don't focus on the version.
Okay.
And these records can be modified before triggers, which means you cannot use the new keyword, trigger.new, like for the after triggers. So what I mean, for example, if we are doing any after, which we did most triggers on the account, right? So while we are doing after, we have new here. Insert after. I think I need to check. I need to check this. That's what, like, because in here we have these are all new.
Maybe just for update.
When
After,
we use
we cannot use.
the old where
Yes.
delete and is there a delete on this one? Then we are using
No,
trigger.old.
no, we are just talking about the new. According to here, we cannot, like, it can be only modified for the before triggers, just for new. So, but when I check our triggers, we use the trigger.new for the after update, after insert also. If new is a list of the new records, Chilam, if you are talking with your
Oh, sorry, sorry, I was muted. That means trigger.new, as I said before, it's representing of you insert a new record or you update some record that's representing as a new part. So trigger.new, you can say that, let's say that you have 10 accounts, you updated 2 of them. Trigger.new is that 2 of them. List of 2 accounts. Or you insert some reports. Trigger.new.
okay, so
reports.
what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to correct this statement. So I'm just going to erase this one.
Yeah.
And
There's
also
totally wrong over there.
I should delete all this sentence then.
Yeah.
Can we make a standardization, like, to make it easy? Like, we can use the trigger.new for only these two, for example. Can we do that?
I couldn't hear, sorry.
I'm just trying to say, like, can we organize and just modify this thing and make a standardization? Can we say we can just use the new trigger.new for the, like, just before or or after
we can use both
update or insert?
We can use is insert, is update, is undelete. That's the new. We can use is before, is after also. We can use wherever is before or is after. We can use, but we don't use in delete part because you are deleting some records. You are not creating new record or you are not updating records, so you don't have any new thing. We just use old trigger.old is delete.
Right. Then
we can use before, I mean after triggers.
After undelete. After undelete, can we use the new?
Yeah, yes. Because
so I should make it. I should make this one after. And
yes.
I should delete this part.
Yes.
So DML operations are insert, update, undelete, but undelete doesn't have before, so this
Yeah,
part
after.
should be after.
Also, you can add over there before and after insert, before and after update.
In
And
here, yeah,
after
okay.
undelete.
Okay. So I am just trying to make a list in that way, like when we confuse, because even if we decide if it is before or after trigger, I am still confusing, like while I'm putting the trigger.new, trigger.old map or new map, that makes me confusing. I don't know if you guys having the same issue,
Yes.
but I'm getting this kind of issue. The only thing I know, the new map, for example, if I compare the new with the new map, you can understand from the name, it is a map. So this is a map of IDs of the new version. When I say new version, which means new records, you can just think about like that. Because of it is new because of the new, and it is map of IDs because of it is a set of map. And this map is only available if we are doing any update before or after. And is it available for the before insert? Çilem?
Which one?
No, because we
New
cannot.
map. Is it available for the before insert?
No, because
So
you're
before insert, we don't have IDs.
yeah, before insert you cannot use because you are just inserting new list, so you can just use list trigger.new
So,
is enough. No
okay,
need.
so can you confirm that this part is correct? I think you are talking, but nobody can hear.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, before update we can use
This part is
new
correct.
map, but after update, yeah, you put after update, after insert, after undelete triggers new map. Before update, I'm just thinking about the use cases or situation. Maybe if you are using
Before
another,
update, old map we used. but
generally, that's why I'm thinking about what kind of situation it can be for the before updates. If we are using more than 2 different records.
I think we never used the new map.
Yeah, before update is generally, yeah, says something, but generally that's not suggested one. Generally, we don't use before update for the trigger.new. But yeah, it can be a situation, it can be a use case we need to use. For example, you need to use some more than 2 objects, or you are doing some different kind of operations, then you can use. But in general forms, after is more sense.
While we are on the same page, I just need to correct this stuff. So can you say anything wrong here for the new map?
No.
Okay. Because at the same time, I'm just trying to correct this stuff. So for the new,
Yeah, but you can just put a note. Generally, we are using for after for new map, because maybe if you are using
just
trigger.new.
give me a second.
Okay.
This one should be after undelete, and the records can be modified or not. This part is wrong. It is like this. Is that correct for the new? And this one.
That's
before
correct. Just you can put a note over there. Yeah, just general use, we are using after, but if you use before update, it can be a very specific situation. We usually use for after.
Usually it is used for
Because as I think Aslı said that we
after.
need some trigger.new map, we need some ID, you know. So after is more logical. Maybe if you are using some different methods, and if you are gonna use same method for the
But it is update, so if it's update, we have the ID already. So if we cannot use it before insert, I said. I think before update is.
There is there is no before insert here, so this one should
before
be
insert,
okay.
you are, you said before insert, but even if you are using something new, right, some trigger.new, even it's not more sense, you know, because let's say that you have already that records and you can use trigger.old map, right?
Yeah, if
Does it make sense?
if you
What I
just
mean?
if you just check the Sanjay's use cases,
Mhm.
like we never use the new map.
Yeah.
But I am just trying to make something standard in that way, like while we are using, maybe it can guide us and like we don't make any mistake. If this portion is correct.
Yeah,
example-
what is the difference? We are generally using trigger.new. What does it mean? We are generally using as a list. If you want to use as a map, you can use trigger.new map. But list is more practical, right?
It is easier than map.
Yeah,
Or-
do you prefer that using trigger.new map or trigger.new?
Yeah, list is better.
Anybody?
So that's why maybe we didn't use this one.
Using list is more comfortable, I think. That's why generally we use trigger.new. So if you want to use trigger.new map, definitely you can use it.
Let's continue with the alt and alt map. In that way, we can just complete this portion, then we can continue later on. So alt is list again, like new, trigger.alt, which is a list of, Aslı didn't like this version. So all records, list of the old records. And when did we use this? While we are doing any update or delete. If it doesn't say any before or after, so I think it is available for both of them. Update or delete. So when I check here, if it is update, we can see lots of old map, but we didn't see any old. But it doesn't mean we can use the old, I think. Alt is list, alt map is the map again. Chilam, can you confirm it? Because I don't want to say something. I'm not sure.
We are using in update and in delete.
These two options, right?
Yes.
So while we are picking the trigger.alt or trigger.alt map, we should consider about update and
Yeah.
delete operations only.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. So the only wrong portion was new. And we added extra here. Okay. And okay, there is one more thing here, which is executing. It is not an event, but I put this one over here. We are using this one while we are calling Apex code from the trigger. We have questions about this, but right now don't focus on this, since these are fixed, and we should know like when do we need to use the new and new map or old map. That is the point. I am still confusing, I can say. But it depends. Whatever we are using on the handler class here, accordingly, we are just typing it over here. So if we are using new and old map, it should be inside here also. And sometimes we are writing down something like this one. Let me check. So we are using the list as a new and old map. So if we are using it underneath only one method for both of them, which is, let me find this one, insert update. Insert update. Insert update shipping address. Update shipping address. Just one. So since we use the trigger.new because of this list and old map for the trigger.old map, we are using both of them in the only one method. When we do this, we just need to put both of the list and map here inside the parentheses. But if it is a insert, if it is insert only, we don't need to put the old map because there is no old value, old ID of the old records, I can say. That's why instead of like skipping this part, we are just putting a null here. We did this one for FE use cases, but if you guys remember it. All right, so for today, I think this is enough. And since these are becoming a standard, so I'm just going to do some updates over here. I did it on my original source. Then when I share you guys, it is going to be up to date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. See you guys within 5 minutes. Thank you for your time.
See you.
Bye.